Coming up on show 610, Porsche surprises with the Taycan 4S. More talk of banning engines, and Tesla is the most Googled. Those stories and many more coming up on today's podcast. First one of a brand new working week. Good morning, good afternoon or good evening, wherever you're listening around the world. Welcome to the show, EV News Daily for Monday 14th of October. My name is Martyn Lee. I've been through every EV story that I can find today, and trust me, there's plenty going on. But I think these are the stories that matter the most. I do this to save you time, ultimately, so you haven't got to spend hours searching around all the different blogs. I bring them all together for you in one place. Thank you very much to myev.com. They are bringing all of the USA's used EVs together in one place. Maybe not all of them, but a fair chunk. Check out myev.com if you're in the market, maybe buying or selling or learning about cars with a plug socket on. And welcome to a new Patreon producer, Harold. Harold Plug. Thank you, Harold, very much for signing up at the producer level, my friend. And you can check out what Patreon's about if you want to. It's how we fund this show. I mentioned Porsche at the start of the show. Big news, big surprise this morning, actually. Only in September, the new electric sports car from Porsche had a high-profile premiere on 3 continents simultaneously. Big media launch. Now they are presenting the third version of what is the sports saloon. The Taycan 4S, says a press release from Porsche's newsroom today. The new model is available instantly in 2 battery sizes. Following the Taycan Turbo S and the Taycan Turbo, the Taycan 4S is the new entry-level model in the series. There is a what they call single-deck performance battery. The single-deck battery is 79.2 kilowatt hours. As standard, there's a double-decker battery. I don't know if that physically means that the cells are sitting on top of each other. Anyway, they call it a 2-deck system, and it's called Performance Plus battery, and that's got 93.4 kilowatt hours. It's the same one as used in the Turbo and the Turbo S. On the Porsche configurator today, on the Porsche UK website, they show the range, the official range, anything between 198 miles and 289 miles. So 198 to 289. I really wish they wouldn't do this, because for so long with the WLTP figure we've been used to one number, and with the EPA range we're used to one number, and then we're smart enough to work out, okay, if it's super cold, I'm going to get less. If I drive it with a heavy right foot, I'm going to get less. If I'm driving around town at 30 using loads of regen, I'm going to get more. Like, we know that, but Porsche are not the first to do this, but they're the ones that I've seen doing it the most recently. They're giving a range for their EV, a range of the range. And I don't approve, because I don't think it tells people enough about what that range is, and also people inevitably look at the small number, and 189 miles for a car that is listed, by the way, in the UK at £83,367. 83,367 is the starting price of the 4S. And of course, what with Turbo and Turbo S, there's of course no such thing as a turbo electric car, just following the line of how Porsche name their cars along with 4S. So it all fits in nicely with how Porsche name their cars. From Fred at Electrek, he says the smaller battery pack results in a range of 253 miles. Ah, brilliant, another number. And the longer range in the Performance Plus battery of 288 miles, based on WLTP. The 4S with the Performance battery becomes the longest range version of the Taycan because it's not as powerful as the Turbo, and therefore, by a strange quirk of physics, it'll actually go further. Both versions of the new 4S will go 0 to 60 in 4 seconds, top speed of 250 kilometers an hour. Porsche say the new version is starting at $103,000 US, and the bigger battery pack $110,000. Evo.co.uk, Evo, the legendary performance magazine, say that separating the 4S from its turbo counterparts are just a few subtle design tweaks. The new 19-inch aero wheels, the red brake calipers, less aggressive front and rear bumper designs, slightly raised rear suspension. The 6-piston caliper brakes with 360mm discs are fitted at the front, 4-piston units at the rear. Porsche's 4D chassis control can be found alongside the same 3-chamber adaptive air suspension as its bigger brother, or bigger sister cars if you like. Perhaps the biggest draw of the 4S will be its price, starting in the UK at $83,367. It seems no less than a bargain, say Evo, no less than a bargain when stacked up against the Turbo and Turbo S, with £32,500 sitting between it and the Turbo, and £55,500 between the 4S and the Turbo S. Order books opened today. I have been playing about with the configurator online on the Porsche website. They've done this thing, and I really respect what Porsche have tried to do here. They've tried to educate the typical Porsche buyer according to how you drive the EV is the range you'll get. So you can go along and play with some sliders on the website. And if you slide the temperature down to the minimum, if you slide the aircon up to maximum, if you slide the type of driving that you'll be doing up to motorway driving, it knocks the range down to 137 miles. Now, maybe you won't be driving on the motorway with the aircon on maximum in minus 10 degrees temperatures, but I just don't think that at this particular point in time, it's necessarily the best thing to do if you want to educate people. The best way to be showing off a car that costs £84,000 as having 137 miles of range. That's woeful. Of course, it's not true, really. You'll never get 137 miles of range if you drive the car sensibly, if you drive it in mixed driving conditions. It'll be at 200, 220 maybe. But I see what Porsche are trying to do with educating people. Like, tell us how you'll drive and we'll tell you the range it'll do. But putting in some random things and getting 137 miles out, well, it didn't work for me, but you've got to respect what Porsche are trying to do, educating their own buyers about living with an EV. I just don't think that's the best way to do it, but have I got a solution? No, not really. I just think give the EPA number or give the WLTP number. Give one number. And then maybe that education job is done by the salespeople in the showroom, or I'm not sure how it's done. Look, Tesla owners don't seem to be too confused. There's an EPA number on the Tesla website, and they know that if they drive it in flat out track mode all the time, it's not gonna get that number. But that's exactly the same as petrol cars. So, you know, the MPG figure that we get. Anyway, we're going around in circles. Anyway, let's move on. Volkswagen. This is a big story. If it hadn't been for the Porsche news surprising everyone this morning, this story would have been top, because Volkswagen doesn't expect the shift in production of electric cars aimed at averting billions of euros of pollution fines to hurt its profit margins. They say margins will not be changed. Chief Executive Herbert Diess told a newspaper today, and then reported by Reuters. Diess said the German car maker expected to sell 20,000 Audi e-trons this year, adding the first year's production of the electric Taycan is sold out. Orders for the VW ID3 have covered the production process until mid-2020, he says. I've got a quote from Herbert Diess. I quote, "We do not expect a deterioration in margins. Our advantage is that all our brands have the same platform for electric products and the same batteries that we buy in China." End quote. Very interesting there. Head of VW Group saying margins won't be hurt. We're not selling them at a loss. We'll still make the same profit depending on whether you're buying a Porsche or a VW or an Audi e-tron. That's very interesting. Of course, it would be worth pointing out that whilst he says the order books are full and they're making as many of the ones that they have planned, well, yeah, but if Tesla are making 7,000 cars a week, and he's saying, well, we've sold all of the VW ID3s that we were going to sell, and that's all the way through to mid-2020. They're not talking about the biggest numbers yet, but of course all the talk from VW is that the numbers will get very big this time next year when they ramp production. But for now, you're talking about a few thousand Taycans, 20,000 e-trons from Audi. It's, you know, they're good numbers, but VW is a mega automaker. They're not the biggest numbers, if I'm honest with you. But it's a huge story that the head of VW saying they will sell their cars at a profit. Let's talk about a Chinese automaker Singulato Motors received a big capital injection of cash from Japan's Itochu Corporation, amounting to $100 million today, according to Reuters. According to pandaily.com, they say Singulato could receive an additional few hundreds of millions of dollars from Itochu if the Chinese startup can meet certain conditions. To receive the funding, Singulato have got to speed up development of their first model, a fully electric SUV called the IS6. And they've got to make preparations for an IPO. A Tokyo-based spokesperson said the Japanese company had recently made an additional investment in Singulato, but declined to specify the exact amount. Previously, the total funding of Singulato was 17 billion yuan, that's 2.4 billion US dollars, where the company has investors like Legend Star, Till Capital, Intel Capital, GX Capital, and big financial investors as well. A company there that has got the cash, hasn't got the cars yet though, but we'll continue to watch them. Let's talk about Group PSA, Peugeot, Citroën, etc. Speaking at the Automotive EV Conference in Coventry at the end of last week, the UK's head of EVs for Group PSA, Helen Lees, discussed their electrification strategy and, in general, the future of the automotive industry, and addressed some investment and market potential. In just 2 years, Group PSA said, in 2 years' time, they'll have 15 new electrified vehicles across their portfolio. That includes the DS brand with the Crossback E-Tense, the D7 Crossback E-Tense, the all-new Peugeot Pure Electric E208, some hybrids like the 3008 SUV and the 508 hybrid, Vauxhall's Pure Electric Corsa E, the Grandland X, which is a hybrid plug-in, joined next year by the all-electric E2008, the Citroën C5 hybrid. And Group PSA are extending their battery electric offering with their LCV product vans, in other words. Next year, the Citroën Relay and the Peugeot Boxer getting plugs. I'll pop a link in the show notes to all of these stories, by the way, if you want to read more. The Labour opposition party in this country are pitching with a general election on the cards between now and Christmas to be the next government of this country, and they say if they do it, they will end the sale of cars that have combustion engines inside them in 2030. Part of plans to tackle what has quickly been talked about this year, certainly the climate emergency. The party is talking to the car industry and the trade unions. Of course, if you're not familiar with UK politics, trade unions, very influential in the Labour Party, exploring the policies that are needed to achieve the goal. It says it wants to help an under-siege car industry switch to EV production, says The Guardian. The Guardian say it comes as measures to phase out internal combustion engines are gathering pace across Europe. Earlier this month, Denmark called for a plan to phase out diesel and petrol cars by 2030. That plan was backed by 10 other EU countries. But you've always got to just look at the detail of this, and I can't find the detail of Labour's proposal, saying they're going to stop combustion engine cars being sold by 2030. This country has a plan to do that by 2040 at the moment, but if you dig beneath the surface, if you look at what they mean by that, our current government, when they say stopping combustion cars being sold by 2040, they mean pure combustion cars. So as long as a car has a degree of electrification, let's face it, soft hybrids have been around for donkey's years now. They're hardly new technology. The Prius is age old now. That really, in 21 years' time, you want cars to have a little battery and to get off the line with electric power before the engine kicks in? No. Be more ambitious, please, UK government, or indeed the opposition, who are hoping to be in government. Another way of thinking about how much your EV will cost you is our next story on the podcast. There's a magazine in the UK called Parker's, and they want to try and persuade people to use the phrase miles per pound. And it's an interesting thought. Let me tell you what they're thinking. The miles per pound figure. What they want to do is a simple way of comparing the cost of running a car regardless of how it's powered, using the real-world fuel consumption figures and updated electricity and petrol prices. What they're going to do, hopefully, is show how far a car can go for the pounds in your pocket. They've developed this figure as a way of demystifying the way of comparing EVs and fossil cars. And hopefully, in a nutshell, they say, with this figure, you can directly compare how much any car costs to take on a journey. For EVs, they will take the current average electricity cost. For other cars, the average petrol cost at the filling station. And this will help potential owners understand the overall running costs of a car in real-world terms. And people that have been playing with this since the beginning of October, when they announced it, have said that EVs, on average, are coming out at 3 times less than a combustion engined car. Or rather, I should flip it the other way around. If you're going to put dinosaurs in your tank, it's going to cost you 3 times as much as driving an EV. And like all these things, not an exact science. Some people charge overnight when it's cheap. Some people have solar on their roof, but they're doing their best to try and demystify things. And for that, we've got to say, well done, Parkers. It's not a perfect system by any means, but I like their thinking. Finally, Marketing Daily has reported that a new study shows Tesla is the most Googled car brand by Americans. 2.2 million searches every single month. The model that is the most searched for is, surprise, surprise, the Model 3, with around 670,000 searches every month. According to Clean Technica, in the UK, Tesla come 4th. The Model 3 is the most searched for individual car. In Italy, Tesla are 5th, with the Model 3 the number 1 car searched for. In Germany, Tesla are 5th. Model 3, number 1. And in France, Tesla are 7th on the list, but the Model 3 is the number 1 most searched for car. Let's get on to our question of the week this week. So, with fewer and fewer petrol cars on the road, we know that governments tax fossil fuels more so than electricity. How can we make up for lost revenue when we're all driving EVs? The money that used to be taken into the coffers in terms of fuel tax, how can we make up for that? How can we make up for lost revenue from taxing fossil fuels? Email me, hello@evnewsdaily.com. Leave a comment on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you to 256 patrons of this here podcast. Patreon is a website where you can support individual creators or those doing a job if you want to, but no pressure. I'll make the show anyway. Our premium partners are Phil Roberts of Electric Future, Brad Crosby, and Avid Technology. If you'd like to get any of the previous 609 shows online, you can do for free. The new shows come at you first and free and automatically if you are a podcast subscriber. Come and say hi on social media by searching EV News Daily. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow. And remember, there is no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.